When writing knockout observables, it's really important to remember that observables are functions. It means you're going to run into these parentheses all the time, and if you leave them out, you may have a problem. One of the most common things that people do, in fact, is they forget to unwrap their observables. So when you're setting your observables to a property value, like cat here for this pet, you want to make sure that you pass it in through the parentheses because name is an actual function and you're passing in the value. And we have to unwrap our observables so we're not looking at the function, but instead we're looking at the value. And whether we're setting or we're getting our observables, we need to make sure that we use these parentheses. For example, we have an observable name, which has got a value of Haley. And when we read this, we can say console.log name, and now we're actually going to see a function definition because name is missing the parentheses. So instead, what we'd have to do is say console.log name with the parens, and that'll give us the value of Haley. It is really easy to leave off those parentheses, and you got to make sure that you do this for setting values too. So if we set the value of Ella, that's going to work just fine. Name is going to get the value of Ella. But when we say name equals Ella, that's a perfectly valid line of JavaScript, but now we've just redefined the name property to be a string. It's no longer an observable. The same rules apply to observable arrays too. So here we've got a person constructor, and we're creating two people, P1 and P2. Now when we try to set the value of Madeline into people's 0th element name, do we have a problem? Well, we certainly do. We're missing parentheses on people, that's an observable array, and on name, that's also an observable. So what if we just do people 0 name and then set Madeline like this? Now we're setting name, the observable, right, but we still left off the missing parens on the people observable array. So the right way to do this is actually say people, make sure you put the parens there, go get 0th element, dot name, and set Madeline. So you might be thinking, wow, I've got a lot of parentheses I got to remember. The keys to remembering when to use parentheses are whenever you're unwrapping an observable function in code, you want to make sure you use parentheses. And unwrapping is when you're actually taking the observable and getting the value out of it. You're unwrapping the function. You also want to use parens whenever you're diving into objects with declarative data binding. So inside your HTML, if you have something like this where it's sessions.length, you want to make sure you use parentheses on the sessions object because that is actually an observable array. You also want to use parentheses if you're diving into an observable object. So here we've got an observable speaker, and it's got a property of image path. So inside of our HTML, it's okay to leave off those parens on the far right of image path. Wait, what do you mean by that? Rightmost properties don't require parens in HTML. For example, let's take a look at this. Here we've got people.length. Here we have to have people with parens because that's an observable array. It's not the rightmost property, length is. So in that case, we need to reference it with the parens. Now we have an article. We're going to dive into all the people in that observable array. Notice here, I don't have to use parens because Knockout says it's the rightmost property, that's people, and therefore I'm going to unwrap that and make sure I can get to the people array. Inside of here, now we're on each individual person. These again were observable properties. Name should be an observable, right? That's right, but the name is the rightmost property, so I don't need parens. It's going to unwrap it. Same thing happens with age. And let's say we have a nested object like address. The address object may also be an observable. Now because that's not the rightmost, we have to use parens, and then we can say address.city. And city is also an observable in this case, and it gets unwrapped. So the rule of thumb with parentheses is to make sure you use them anywhere in your JavaScript, and then inside of your HTML and your declarative data binding, only use parens if it's not the rightmost property. So you don't have to use them on city, age, name, and people in this case because they are the rightmost. Well, let's say that you actually put the parens after name. That's going to be okay because with or without the parens, the rightmost property is going to be unwrapped by Knockout.